What if the most dangerous woman in your life was never real? Imagine standing at the edge of a vast ocean, its depths endless, its surface strangely still. As you gaze into it, you see a reflection not of her, but of yourself. This ocean is your unconscious mind, and somewhere within its waves drifts a figure Carl Jung called the Anima, the inner feminine that every man carries, but few dare to understand. Here on Soul of Life, we explore the quiet truths beneath the noise, the unseen patterns, the shadowed stories, the parts of you that ache to be known. Today we begin a journey inward, not to judge the women we've loved, but to meet the parts of ourselves we've projected onto them. Because some of the women who shake us the most were never meant to save us. They came to show us who we still haven't faced. She doesn't cry out loud. She doesn't demand to be seen. She enters quietly, almost like a memory. There's a softness in her voice, a heaviness behind her eyes, like someone who's survived 1,000 winters and has no fire left to tend. And you, the man who's always held it together, suddenly feel your strength ache to become shelter. This is the Wounded Siren. She doesn't seduce with charm, she seduces with pain. Her suffering is her song, and somewhere in it, you hear your calling. Jung would call this projection. Your anima, the inner feminine you've never fully made peace with, takes form outside you. And before you know it, you're not loving her, you're chasing the piece of yourself you think she'll help you find. You begin to rearrange your life. You pour into her like she's an empty cup. You listen to her stories of betrayal. You promise you'll never leave, like the others did. But slowly the rescuer becomes the prisoner. Mark, a man who once built companies, found himself trying to rebuild a woman, not because she asked him to, but because something broken in him needed to be needed. That is the siren's true power, not her wounds, but the mirror she holds to yours. She doesn't scream, she sighs, and somehow every sigh pulls you deeper into her world. She's always misunderstood, always surrounded by enemies, and somehow the chaos never seems to leave her side. She is the eternal victim, not because life has been cruel, but because victimhood has become her identity. Jung spoke of the shadow, the parts of ourselves we cannot see, but that drive us all the same. The eternal victim is often a woman who hasn't faced her own shadow, so she asks you to carry it for her. At first, it feels like compassion. You listen, you comfort, you protect. But over time, you begin to feel a different weight. It's not love, it's emotional debt. And no matter how much you pay, the balance never clears. Alex thought he was being supportive. Every week brought new stories of betrayal, colleagues who didn't understand her, friends who turned their backs. He offered solutions, offered time, offered his heart, but nothing changed. Because change would mean letting go of the role she plays so well. She doesn't want healing, she wants attention disguised as need. And she knows exactly how to make you feel like leaving would make you the villain in her story. But here's the truth. You are not cruel for protecting your peace. And love is not measured by how much suffering you're willing to absorb. Because the moment you become her savior, you forget you were ever a man with a life of your own. She doesn't dazzle with mystery. She comforts you with familiarity. She knows your favorite books, your beliefs, your boundaries. And somehow, she always agrees. She is the illusionist, not because she lies, but because you've mistaken her reflection for a revelation. In Jungian psychology, projection is subtle. It doesn't scream, it nods. And when a man hasn't made peace with his own unmet desires, he will pour them into someone else and call it destiny. At first, David thought he had found his soulmate. Sophia laughed at his jokes, echoed his worldview, admired the parts of himself he wasn't sure anyone could love. But little cracks began to show, half-truths, shifting stories, contradictions too clean to be real. The more he tried to hold on, the more he realized he hadn't fallen for her. He had fallen for the version of himself she was willing to mirror. You see, the illusionist doesn't need to manipulate. You do it for her, with every hope you project, every flaw you overlook, every red flag you repaint in gold. She is not your answer, she is your echo, and the longer you chase her, the further you drift from your own center. Real love begins where illusion ends. But to end the illusion, you must first ask, who is she really? And who have you asked her to pretend to be? She walks into the room like she owns the air. She doesn't ask for space, she takes it. She's sharp, eloquent, magnetic. You admire her confidence, you're drawn to her gravity. But slowly, you begin to vanish in her orbit. This is the queen without a king. She doesn't seek love. She seeks control, disguised as independence. Jung described the animus as the masculine force inside the feminine psyche. When wounded or unchecked, it becomes overbearing, cold, dominating, unyielding. The queen no longer wants a partner. She wants a subordinate. At first, you feel challenged in the best way. She pushes back. She questions your logic. You tell yourself it's healthy tension, until the tension becomes humiliation. Your voice, once steady, grows quiet. You find yourself second-guessing your thoughts, your worth, your right to lead. Michael once loved Rachel's fire, her ambition, her clarity. But with time, the warmth faded. Every conversation turned into correction. Every disagreement a declaration of war. And when he finally tried to stand his ground, she labeled him controlling, threatened, weak. But here's the truth no one wants to say. You are not toxic for wanting balance. You are not insecure for needing to be heard. And if your strength must be sacrificed to make space for hers, you're not in a partnership. You're in a silent battle you never agreed to fight. Because real queens don't need to conquer their kings. They build kingdoms together. She doesn't need to impress you. She just listens, quietly, carefully, completely. You feel seen, not judged, not fixed, not dismissed, just understood. And in a world where men are taught to stay guarded, that kind of presence feels like salvation. But not every open hand is meant to hold you. Some are meant to disarm you. This is the soul thief. She invites your truth, not to cherish it, but to store it, like a quiet collector of secrets. And one day, when the wind changes, those secrets will no longer feel sacred. They'll feel sharp. Carl Jung warned us, what we reveal without discernment can be weaponized, and what we entrust to someone without boundaries can be turned against us in ways we never imagined. Tom shared everything with Emily, his childhood scars, his father's silence, his fear of failing, and for a while, it felt safe, until it didn't. One night, during an argument, she didn't raise her voice. She just said one sentence, one deeply personal sentence, and it hit harder than any scream ever could. That's the soul thief's power. She doesn't bruise you with hands. She bruises you with memory. Your memory. If you've ever caught yourself hesitating before speaking, not because you're dishonest, but because you're afraid your honesty might be used against you later, you already know her. And the deepest tragedy is this. She didn't seal your soul. You gave it to her. Because you thought you were finally home. She doesn't arrive, she erupts. You don't meet her, you survive her. From the moment she enters your life, the air changes. Colors feel brighter. Time speeds up. Every word, every glance, every touch feels like fire. She is the Chaos Muse. And in her presence, you remember what it's like to feel alive. But only for a while. She pulls you into midnight conversations that turn into sunrise drives. She challenges every rule you've lived by, and you welcome the rebellion. Your routine unravels. Your discipline fades. You call it spontaneity. You call it freedom. But freedom without grounding is just falling. Jung warned that the unintegrated anima, the feminine within, can seduce the masculine psyche into madness, not love. And that's what the Chaos Muse does. She awakens the part of you that's still starving for thrill. Not because she loves recklessly, but because she doesn't know how to love in stillness. Jake was a disciplined artist. He met Luna in a jazz bar, and suddenly, deadlines didn't matter. He stopped painting, started drinking, started chasing moments that left him emptier than before. She never asked him to lose himself. but he did anyway. Because her fire made him forget how cold he had become. You think you're chasing passion, but what you're really chasing is escape. From routine, from order, from yourself. And when she disappears, as she always does, all that remains is the wreckage of a man who mistook chaos for connection. Now you've met them all. The wounded siren, the eternal victim, the illusionist, the queen without a king, the soul thief, and the chaos muse. But this was never truly about them. These women didn't appear in your life by accident. They arrived like mirrors, each one reflecting a part of you that still remained unseen. Not to destroy you, but to reveal you. Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." So when you ask, why do I always attract women like this? Or why does it always end the same way? The answer isn't out there. It's within. In the parts of you that still feel unloved. In the boy who wanted to be needed, admired, rescued, understood. Each archetype came to pull that boy out of hiding. To show him what happens when he gives his power away in exchange for recognition. You are not broken for falling for her. You are simply unintegrated. And now you've seen it. This isn't about blame. It's about awakening. So take a breath. Look not at who she was, but at who you became around her. Because healing doesn't mean avoiding these women. It means outgrowing the version of you that needed them. And when you do, you'll meet love that doesn't demand a performance. Love that doesn't punish your truth. Love that begins where illusion ends. Not because you chased her, but because you finally came home to yourself. Which one of these archetypes still lingers in your memory, and what did she teach you about yourself?